We ask ourselves, what if entrepreneurship didn't look like this, but more like this, or like this? And so we put together an 8-week entrepreneurship program with over 30 experts and summarized all the best advice for you and for over 100 entrepreneurs that have already gone through the 8-week program. So tune in, listen to what they have to say, and join us in our next Guild Academy program, 8 weeks of doing and launching our businesses.
I think the biggest fallacy I run into from founders is actually that if your goal in early testing is not to see whether people like it or not, it's not to see whether it works or not, it's not to ask a yes or no question, it's to actually use your prototype as an example to ask an open-ended question and get open-ended answers back. Because your answer is almost inevitably going to be no, but for these reasons and so on. Like if all of your initial answers are holy shit yes, the chances are much more likely that you're testing wrong than that you actually have the right solution.
Why? Why are you doing this? This is not what you're doing or how you're doing it. This is the 5 years from now, when you have completely transformed your industry, what will have happened? What will you have achieved? So if you can get that into a sentence or a few words that hit people in the gut, that's powerful. You've got their attention.
What seems stale or boring? Contrast that with something new, say a pop-up store. Why do this? Because once you can readily spot what's traditional, you will likely discover ideas for improvements and possibly innovations. Do the same with apps, websites, and tech. Come with what we call beginner's mind.
Telling you there's a lot of founders out there who have never ever talked to their users before they launched the product. And guess what? Most of them completely, utterly fail. And boom, you created value because you introduced her to the right service. And that MVP you can build in an hour. I can challenge you, and I will challenge you right now, that you build this MVP in an hour, and that is what you're going to test. And that is what you're going to send out to those people that you have maybe already interviewed, or some other people that fall into Sissy's profile. And again, if you're not cringing and like, oh, not sure I should send this, you're probably too far along. You gotta be fast, okay? This is about speed. You gotta be fast, bring it to the market.
And as you can see, right, to really run a successful business, there are 3 angles that need to be right. Your customer desirability, does your customer actually want this? Business viability, can you make some money with this? And technical feasibility, can you actually produce or create the product or the service that you have in mind? Today, all the focus is going to be on this business viability. So what we see happen a lot is people automatically start to write business plans because that's what they've heard, that's what they've been trained for in business schools, write a business plan. But maybe that's the best news of today. Please stop writing business plans. Seriously, it's useless. I've never seen a business plan surviving the first customer contact. So please don't waste your time on that, right? We really need to get out of thought lens. We really need to stop our blah blah, and we need to do something different. So I'm here to show you what you can do different if we cannot write business plans.
This is what you can expect in our time together. We are going to define branding and finally put an end to all the different elusive definitions that may be running around the heads of you and your team. I know you're brilliant and you may be too smart for your own good when it comes to branding. There's no need to overthink it. Today we're going to simplify. And that means you're going to discover what branding is not. And followed by the 1, 2, 3 of your brand. And finally, the brand strategy.
A few tips about working with creative agencies. And I would probably say this is about any creative partnership or business partnership that you're going to have. For me, a really, really important piece is to hire people and teams that you like. And I know that you want to hire for the best talent and maybe you want award-winning companies, but if you don't like these people, if you don't want to sit in meeting after meeting with them and you just don't get a good vibe, especially as a woman, I will tell you right now, it's not going to work. You need to have mutual respect. You need to like these people. It's going to, it takes a while to do this process.
I define blitzscaling as the pursuit of rapid growth by prioritizing speed over efficiency in the face of uncertainty. Now, the reason you would want to do this, to focus on speed, is because when you are attacking a winner-take-most market, it is generally the case that the company that is able to achieve critical scale first then goes on to become the enduring market leader. And that is the position that the Amazons, the Alibabas, and the Airbnbs find themselves. Because they were willing to move so quickly and aggressively during their early stages, they were able to build these lasting franchises. Now, the reason this matters to early stage entrepreneurs is they have to determine for themselves, does it make sense for my company to blitzscale? Even though at the very earliest stages you're not going to have the capital or the resources to really go all out, you still need to want to design a business model that is blitzscalable. That is, if in fact your goal is to build one of the world's most important companies. And following the rules of blitzscaling and understanding what makes a company blitzscalable will allow you to design a business model that's going to allow your company to go from zero to global giant.
I'm like, how do we even start to think about the delivery of those values and those messages? And how do we prioritize too, as you said, right? There's so many different channels.
The number one thing to keep in mind is a saying that I love to say, which is a friend to all is a friend to none. And it's a similar saying in marketing. If you market to all, you market to none. Who is the customer that you're servicing, and how are you uniquely serving that customer? And once you really dive into that customer, you can then start to reverse engineer a marketing strategy that's going to make the most sense. So you can say, okay, my customer is XYZ. He or she is living and breathing and consuming the content that that me and other brands are putting out on this platform specifically. That's the platform you need to be on.
I'm excited to see what you're going to come up with, where you're going to make the money, and if you have a viable business.
Because the only thing we know for sure, it's never going to be right anyway. It's your first guesstimate, but that's your starting point, right? So this one, are you ready to execute? No, we're not ready to execute because it's a guess. So we don't know yet, right? All those numbers that we put on there, they're all question marks. So what do we need to do? Just as you did for your products, we need to get out of the building, right? We need to get out of the building and test our assumptions with our audience, with our customers, right? And so that's also what you need to do here. All these assumptions. So what are some typical assumptions that I always see being made? Market size, market share, completely off, right? We are like everyone could be our customer. No, they won't, right? Like I get 50% market share. No, you won't, right? So really be thoughtful about that, your market size and your market share, because the minute you get out and start to do your testing, then you can test your assumptions. Like, hey, I said like 3 out of 10 would do this. I just spoke with 100 people. Am I still at a 3 out of 10 or not?
Salary of $5,000 a month in month 11, and you're starting to have black numbers or green numbers here in your books. So that's how this financial planning template works.
And also, you are required to give up control of your company and put the investor's interest first, generally speaking, when you raise that kind of money. So I love it when people know all their options before they choose their fundraising strategy. Because when you're going for the VC investment, there's actually a standard term sheet. You can actually look it up online. There's not a lot of debate about the terms. There may be some debate around the edges, but generally speaking, like you said, they're going to want equity. They're going to want to come in at a low valuation and have you sell the company in 5 to 7 years at least a 10x multiple. But when you're raising money from what we call the non-professional investors, the community investors, it's really up to you to decide the terms.
Everybody is aligned around this, which is VCs don't want small exits. VCs want massive outcomes, right? And so if you are on the path to sell your company down the road for 50 million, 100 million, even $200 million, that's not that interesting to venture capitals. For VC, they really want you to go IPO, to reach that $1 billion outcome, and play in big markets, so multi-billion dollar markets. And really, like, the name of the game for VC is something that's called the power law of returns, which is they know that only the top 5, 10, 15% of startups are going to generate all of the returns for the fund. They expect a lot of failures, but they just need that one Zoom, Airbnb, Slack, Uber, Lyft, right, to return the fund many times over. And that's what they're doing. They're unicorn hunting. And so if any of you have tried to go out fundraising on the VC trail and you get lots of no's, it is because not that your company isn't awesome, but for whatever reason, the VC may not believe that you're at least yet on that path to be $1 billion company.
And sometimes it's important to take a step back and say, okay, at the end of the day, what is the company I want to create? What do I want this workplace to look like? And what do I want this company culture to look like? And define that, and also write that in your job descriptions and put that on your website and take some pictures. And make sure you also understand, this is a remote team, or is this a team that works together day and night in an office?
But core values don't matter unless you're using them in day to day. So an example is, one of the core values of my company is alignment. A popular phrase in business is not leaving money on the table. So often how that manifests itself is people will charge as much as they can get away with and customer will still pay. Versus when we use our core value of alignment, we say, hey, how can we make sure that the company, the employees or contractors, and the client or customer are aligned? Part of that for us is saying we want it to be fair. We need to pay our people fairly, and we also need to charge our customers fairly. Now, obviously, we have to make a profit. Obviously, we have to think long term, but we do believe that investing in alignment early on and wanting to be with a company, with our remote professionals for a long time, that is where you really win. So we use that value in a way that actually doesn't, it's not optimizing for the short term, it's optimizing for the long term.
So there is no way that in 5 minutes you are going to be able to tell your entire story. It's just not going to happen. You want to intrigue them, you want to open their minds and engage them and make them want to continue the conversation and have an additional meeting. Nobody's going to pull out their checkbook on the spot and fund you. If you have great news, traction, you've just closed a funding round, closed a contract with someone big, a partnership, don't wait to tell it. Investors know how hard it is to achieve all these milestones, so put it up at the beginning, have what I call the brag slide up front with a few big numbers and achievements. Believe me, they'll be listening in a different way.
Join us in the next Guild Academy and launch your business Silicon Valley style. It's an equity-free program, hands-on exercises, weekly live sessions. It's a small cohort and you get one-on-one coaching. You meet all these experts in videos and in live Ask Me Anything sessions. Every week you get a chance to meet another industry superstar and ask your questions so that you can grow and build your startups. Apply now at letsguildacademy.com and launch your business together with us.